First off, Kieran, it's obviously great to see you again. But I just kind of want to get your introduction to football and kind of where that all began for you.
So I started playing football when I was about 13 years old. I played for my local team that was called West Endon, and that's where I really found a love for the game. Never played before, so didn't really know how I'd find it, where I'd end up playing. Just wanted to go along with my mates and have a kick about, and then it's kicked on from there really, and then here I am today, like 8 years later.
And when you were younger, was coaching something that you kind of wanted to do, or you knew that might be a passion in the future? Because I think you've got a lot of, I know coaches nowadays, most of them have actually been players beforehand and then transition later in life. What was that process like for you?
It was easier than what some would find, I think, because I knew after a couple of years of playing football, I always become that bit of a leader. So I would always talk on the pitch. I was nice and loud. It was always, I couldn't play football. I couldn't enjoy football without communicating and talking to my teammates. I always found it a bit strange if I didn't. So that come quite natural to me. And then I was about 16 or 17, and one of my old coaches he rang me once, and he asked if I would want to come and deliver a session for him for his younger kids. So I went along, thinking I'll do a session here and there, see what it's like, just helping out. They're getting a bit of an experienced head, so to say. And then I absolutely loved it, and I ended up staying with the team for 2 seasons, and I thought it was the best thing ever.
And talk a little bit about that, like that moment where, you're stepping outside your comfort zone. It's something you've never done before. What's that like? And is that something that's always been in you? Because I think it's so important in this industry, isn't it, to take a step outside your comfort zone to try something new?
It was definitely one of the first experiences I've had where I've had to step out of my comfort zone. But I also thought, well, I knew the environment, I knew the coach, so I thought if it goes wrong, then fair enough, I've had a go, it might not be for me. And then I realised that it was something I wanted to do after about a week we had the first session, then a week later we had another session, and we kind of worked on the same thing, and they understood, they remembered, and they really enjoyed it. And for me, seeing that on their faces and seeing them develop was like a massive boost for me, and I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I wouldn't mind doing.
And talk a little bit about the kind of the first time, right? You've heard about Access now, and you're about to come on board with the course, with the college. What was that process like for you? How did you find out about them, and what was the kind of key thing that intrigued you about the course? So
I found out about the course due to Nick and Simon coming to one of my training sessions when I was playing. They come and done. I used to train Monday and Tuesday, so I played Saturday and Sunday. They come on the Monday and done a session for one team, then they come on the Tuesday, so I got to see them twice within 2 days of each other. So obviously I got to do both sessions, so I heard it twice. So I was quite fortunate in that way, with it being so fresh. I think the thing that drove me towards it was full-time football. You didn't have to be the best player in the world, so there was no pressure, really. There was no stress. My grades were always good, so I knew that wouldn't be an issue. And I just thought the whole idea and the whole purpose of the course itself was just something that was too good to pass up, rather than going to sixth form and sitting in a classroom 9 till 3 or whatever. I got to come here, do work for 3 hours in the morning, then I would train in the afternoon, and travel up and down the country playing matches, which is something I'd never done before. So that was also a new experience that I wanted to give a go.
And talk about that process as well of stepping outside of the norm, because I know myself kind of going down that traditional route of whether it be going to a feeder college from your high school, or whether that be going to a university after college. Sometimes when you take a step away from the norms, it can be quite hard because all your mates are doing different things. So what was that process like for you specifically?
It was tough at first because, well, unfortunately I had the whole lockdown situation as well, so that also added many more complications to things. But I think at that point my heart was set on it. I knew that it was what I wanted to do. My friends were going off doing other things. I was quite lucky that everyone was doing their own individual things, so maybe if a group of people were doing this one thing, I don't know, I don't think things would be different, to be honest, because I was always set on playing football. Well, I was always set on coming to Access Sport, whether that would have been on my own, with a mate. I actually started the process with one friend who unfortunately didn't end up staying on the course. Then later on I had another friend come and join who ended up staying for the 2 years with me. So I had basically he become my best friend over them 2 years, and we had a lot of good laughs together. So yeah, that really made my experience for me as well. And then once I was here, the group I had, we had a smallish group, and we all bonded really well. We got on like a house on fire, probably too much if you ask Nick and Simon. But yeah, it was absolutely great, and if I had the chance, I would do it all over again.
And kind of, once you've then done the course, I think that step, isn't it, from full-time education into employment, I think in your head you kind of think it's going to be easy because I've been in school for all these years, I've done it maybe a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 3, but it's so different, isn't it? What was that process like for you then, taking that step? Because you're close in age as well, aren't you, to a couple of the students? Because, I mean, some of them will be like, what, 18, 19, and I think you're 21 now. So it's very close, isn't it, in age? So what's that dynamic like?
It was so when I was coming to the end of my second year, Nick and Simon pulled me in for a meeting and said, look, in September there may be a job opening up, would love to have you, would love to keep you around, but nothing was guaranteed, so we kind of had to play by ear. So once the year ended, I stayed around for a bit. I'd done the pre-season. I think we travelled down to Liverpool that year. We had a little tournament down there. So I stayed around, obviously helped the new recruits come in and get settled. And then once the job was there, obviously I was given it. And then coming into the year twos at the time, who were previously my year ones, that was a little bit strange. However, they were absolutely great. So they wanted me to stay on. I had that respect for them, they had the respect for me. So once I come in, I was really welcomed, and it made the process and the transition much easier.
It's a nice thing, isn't it, when like the transition's made smoother by the individuals who are actually in the place that you're at. But talk to me a little bit about the kind of diverse range of like opportunities that Access does offer. Now you're on the other side of it. You're actually on the point where you're offering it to the students. But talk to me about when you were there and kind of feeling the rewards of those opportunities that were offered to you.
But I think the main one being my job. So I worked hard for 2 years, and ultimately I've come out with a job within the company. I know of lads that have gone on to other jobs within similar fields, lads, university opportunities, playing in America, which is something I also courted for a little bit and then decided against it. There is so many different things that you can go on to after these 2 years or 3 years, 4, whatever, because we've got we've got more courses now. So yeah, there's so many opportunities that if I was to sit here and talk about each one individually, we'd run out of time and we'd be out till tomorrow.
And it's having that those amounts of, especially I think a crucial age. I think 18 to, I'd say 21, and then like kind of maybe like to your mid-20s. They're the crucial years, aren't they, where, everything's confusing. You're making that transition from university, college into the paid work industry, and, you're trying to find your footing. So having that kind of mapped out pathway for you to kind of step into, I mean, I'm sure that sort of alleviated a lot of stress off your shoulders.
Yeah, it did. I think those ages that you've just said, it's a lot like your teenage years. A lot changes in such a small amount of time. You go from being a teenager, a young adult, to you are a fully grown adult essentially, and you're out in the real world, and that can be quite scary. So having a plan is always great, yes, but sometimes it's not the case for everyone, and that's also not a bad thing. I can't talk for everyone else. I was really lucky. I finished my course and then I've stayed local to home. So, but I know of others. So, like one lad in my year, he's now in the army. He comes back every so often.
Right.
We've had a lad go into a non-sports field and gone into a line of work. It's just there's such a range that with the qualification that you get, that you can even go into like public services, stuff like that. I think we've had a few from here go into the army, into the police force, fire service. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be playing football to progress on your career. There's so much more out there for everyone.
And I think that's a big thing. We mentioned that small span of years where a lot of things changes, but also it's being open to new opportunities and knowing, because sometimes we have a plan, don't we, and then it changes and we're like, God, change direction. What do we do now? But it's being open to that, and that's what's kind of what you've just said there. Kind of seems like that's what's encouraged. And kind of moving on to kind of match day support, and that was probably massively different because obviously you experienced it while you were on the course from as a player. But talk to me as a coach, what was that like, the match day support for the young players?
Yeah, it was quite the same really from when I was playing, especially in my first year, because I went from being the captain. So that was my job anyway. I'd naturally get lads up for it. If anyone was dealing with any issues, I would try and get them in the right headspace, ready for the game, so we could go into it together as one team in one mindset. And that kind of become the same as a coach, really. But it was a little bit easier, I guess, because I could pull lads away, pull them out the changing room, and speak to them one on one, and I could make it look like as if I'm giving them little bits of coaching advice, little bit of tactics, when really we could just be chatting about the day or about the weekend. If I know they've had something going on at home, it's just about getting the guys into the right mindset, ready to play, so that they're not stressed, they're not feeling anxious or anything like that.
And talk to me about the importance of knowing your players and, getting the best out of them, because you mentioned there, like they could be having a bad day, something happened at home, whatever it may be, but it's knowing what makes each player tick, because I'm sure you can have one player who kind of likes words of affirmation, or you can have one player who likes you to be hard on him or not speak to him as much. So talk to me about that, knowing your players. What was that like for you?
Yeah, the more numbers we've got every year, that's become a little bit harder. I won't lie on that, but it's just part of the job. It's something that if you want to be successful in it, you've got to do it. You've got to do it quickly, because once games come, if you don't know lads that you're about to put on the pitch, and you, like you said, you maybe speak to them in a way that they're not quite comfortable with, and they can take it the wrong way, they can get upset, or they can just completely ignore you. So it's absolutely vital that you know your squad, you know who you're dealing with, you know what type of characters you're dealing with. So then, but I think because I'm around most of the day as well, I'm not just here on the grass. I see them out and around site. I get to know them as a person rather than as a player. So I think that massively helps as well. It's mainly off the field. You get to know your players, and then that helps once you come to match days, you come to training, and then you can learn. You understand how to deal with them, basically.
And tailoring fitness needs, I think, is a massive thing, because especially we look at the football now, the high level, the Premier League, the level of intricacy in terms of their fitness is massive. And I know the VO is something that's quite big with Access, and, the sports vests. Talk to me a little bit about that, and how is that being something that you've had to adapt to, and also how important it is for the players to be able to track their stats while they're playing.
But the players absolutely love it. They absolutely love comparing stats. They love watching the footage back, especially if someone's scored a good goal or if someone's made an absolute horrific mistake. They like to watch that back and give each other a bit of grief on that. But it's all in friendly competition. So, like I said, like the VO, the running stats, they get to compare. Oh, I ran more than you. I ran quicker than you. I done X amount of sprints, you haven't. Like, they all like to do that, and sometimes it might sound like they're being a bit hostile, but they're actually having a bit of banter with each other. So then next time they go out onto the pitch, they're going to try and be that little bit better, just so then they can go back to their mates and say, actually, mate, like, shut your mouth, really. And then I think that's very player driven. Yes, we use it for them, and we provide it for them, but ultimately it's down to them whether they use that as fuel or feedback, however they want to use that. That's down to them. And at this in Newcastle, they use it absolutely spot on. We also set out standards and aims for them. Right, okay, in this position you should be hitting this amount of kilometres per game. You should be this many sprints, this many runs off the ball, that sort of thing. So we also set out a baseline for them. It's now down to then once the lads are on the pitch, we can't hold their hands, we can't control them like it's a FIFA game. It's down to them to go and put in the graft, and 98% of them want to do it. So you might get the one or two that have an off game for whatever reason, or they might not play as long. But everyone, once they're on the pitch, they're there to win. They're hungry, and they want to develop themselves.
And I'm sure that's rewarding for you as well to kind of see your players wanting to win. And I think, as mentioned before, healthy competition is great, especially in the industry they're going into. Whether they go into, I feel like in any industry, but mainly like sports, whether they are actually playing or whether they're doing physio, whether they're doing media, whether they're doing whatever, it's so important to, want to get better every day. And I think you're in a good environment where it's encouraged, isn't it?
Yeah. I always encourage the lads to drive to be their best selves. If you can be the best version of yourself every day, well, not every day, because like we've said, some are going to have bad days, but overall, if you're pushing, you're working yourself to be the best version of yourself you possibly can, you can't do any more. And as long as you put the work in, you put the effort in, and you really want it, you will achieve that success. So yeah, that's all I ever encourage, and that's all I ever wanted for myself. So I try and play that down to the lads, and yeah, they all take it on board. They want to be the best versions of themselves, because now we have 3 squads. Everyone wants to be in that first team, playing with the Hebben kit on it in our academy team. There's, like you said, healthy competition. That's what it comes down to.
And when we were in Finland, obviously that's where me and you met. I saw a lot of the Newcastle lads, and they're all great, and they really got stuck in. And you've got Tamara as well, who's she's been doing the media side and everything. Talk to me a little bit about Finland. I mean, you going there for, was it your first trip away with them as students? So what was that process like for you? Because as a young lad yourself, it's a big responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, it was massive. Luckily, I had Nick with me for the first 9 days, then Simon for the last few to see it out. But yeah, it was quite a scary thought being away with, I can't remember how many students went, but for my first time, only being a couple of years older than some of them, it was a strange dynamic. But yeah, you know yourself how good everyone got on. It was all like one big organised group. The rest of the staff were absolutely spot on, and I got to learn off them and other members of staff that I won't see every day. So like from the Stephen Gerrard Academy, from the Hyde group, there was lots that I learned from them over there. Not so much as a coach, just as a professional human being, and how to conduct yourself, how to deal with certain situations. Like we may have had a couple of small incidents, which happens all the time, and it was interesting to learn how different members of staff were handling them situations, really.
And taking inspiration as well from that, because there's a lot of coaches out there, isn't there? And talk to me about that inspiration. What's that like for you? Watching a coach or watching them as a human being and going, right, well, this is how they conduct themselves, so I'm going to kind of tailor the way I do things like that, because that's the way I like to see it.
Yeah, well, whenever you're learning from an individual, you always take bits that you like, take bits that you don't like, or you might not find useful for the way you do things. So it's just about, like you said, tailoring the way you approach things by using a bit from here, a bit from there. Like an example of a coach like Pep Guardiola. He's very much out in the open, said he tailors a lot of his stuff around Johan Cruyff and how he done things, and all the coaches that Pep has learned from. So even the best take ideas from other individuals. So yeah, that is something that I try and do. I try and learn from everyone that I interact with, that I deal with, and try to make it the best version of myself.
And that's what it's about, isn't it? Just constantly trying to improve. And talk to me a little bit about the culture at Access Sport Newcastle. I haven't had the pleasure to come down yet, but I'm sure I will in the future. So talk to me a little bit about, as someone, a new person coming into the environment, what would they expect from you guys?
Well, everyone works hard. Everyone's in for one reason. They want to play football. They want to get through the course, and they want to go on and achieve bigger things. Obviously, we have something like 60 odd students here, so I couldn't tell you what everyone wants to achieve in life, but I'm sure they've all got some sort of goal, and I don't think they're in a best place. I don't think they could be in a better place to achieve them goals, especially football related, whether it's they want to get fitter, stronger, faster. We've got an absolutely huge gym upstairs. We've got 2 full-size pitches. Any data that they want to track, we've got everything that they could possibly need.
And that's so good, isn't it, for their young age? And kind of to just finish off, got 2 more little things I kind of want you to do. Give me 3 words. I know it's hard. 3 words to describe Access Sport Newcastle.
Simply the best.
Wow. I think that's probably been the best one so far. And to finish off, Kieran, it's been great talking to you. Give me some advice for any future students coming on the course.
Give it your all. Give it your all, rather, and just do the best you possibly can. Aim to be your best self, like I've already said, and I don't think you'll do much wrong if you just do them simple things, really.
Perfect. Oh, Kieran, listen, it's been great talking to you. Great insightful stuff there for any prospective students or coaches in the future. So thanks very much, and I hope to see you soon.